next part of the program is before you come up. Questions. Questions, yes. Babu, Akadiyan. So, in the beginning, sir said that he wanted to talk only 35-40 minutes, and then with interaction, he said, repeatedly he said, whenever we meet, he said, I want interaction. So, we are going to have, go ahead, Babu.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, sir. Please. Before the speech, I was very happy. Now, I'm very sad now.
Why?
No, that's not my
The figures.
I'm a great optimist. But as I said before, ignoring the facts and being optimistic is not optimism, it's romanticism.
You said, sir.
Look at the facts, look at the solutions, and see what best we can do to implement them. And I truly believe none of the things I said is very original or spectacular. They're commonsensical, universally practiced in societies where they flourished. If we're not willing to do that, then we're unfit to call ourselves a civilized nation. Let me be blunt. So this is not a cry of despair. It is a call for action.
Yeah, sir. You described yourself as an optimist. But my question, I'm afraid, will probably brand me as a skeptic. That's not the fact, sir. So in the entire process of what we are trying to have a macro scenario, we have not fine-tuned on the debate, but no broader aspects. I have a feeling that we are probably not considering the Malthusian aspect of the. We have added one Japan, we have added one Australia, and we have added one Great Britain, population-wise. So there are 3 nations which are on us now. And this probably compounds the growth. So we have a tunnel vision, or do we have a tunnel vision when we only talk about GDP and the voluminous, humongous growth that is happening? How do we address this? I'm not talking about the demographic aspects again, sir.
I get it. Way back in 1974 or so, I wrote an essay. I used to have nightmares about Indian population explosion. I wrote an essay almost arguing that you must do something scientifically so that if you want to have children, there must be an active process by which you beget children. Ordinarily, you must be sterile. I went to that extent as a young person. I was very panicky. But no, this worry about population of India is a worry of 50 years ago. We cracked the problem. We solved the problem. Most states of India today, take Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, most states of India except 2, they have now come below what is called population stabilization level. The fertility rate of 2.1, that means the number of children a woman bears during her reproductive life is called fertility rate. 2.1 is regarded as required for a stable population. Because if a couple begets 2 children, that means they will continue. 2.1 because you expect some mortality. All these states I mentioned are well below that. There are states with 1.6, very some. 1.6 now. The whole country is now between 1.9 and 2. There are only 2 significant states where they are still a little behind the curve, only behind the curve, but they are moving in the right direction. The fertility rate of Bihar is now about 2.7 or so. Of UP is about 2.4, 2.5. But they're also within a decade, they're coming below the level. And aggregate, India will probably have about 160 crore. Today we're at 145, 147. We'll reach maybe 160, 165 max. After that, slowly we'll stabilize and we'll actually decrease. So the challenge is no longer, my God, population increasing. The challenge is, my God, we're not utilizing them well. So many countries are now worried about demographic decline. China is worried because every year they're losing 20, 30 lakh workers, working age. We have people who are working age, we're not utilizing them. And people like Elon Musk, the mad fellow in some respects, he's saying, no, there must be many more people and all that. I hope he'll not win that argument. It's a terrible argument to make. But I don't agree that population is any longer a problem. It's an opportunity. If you make it a crisis, it's our problem.
Very good afternoon.
Whatever youngsters, after this, I want a few youngsters to raise their hands. Please.
I am Dr. Loksatta, sir, one of the leaders of the economic committee. One of the excellent lectures I have heard today. Very knowledgeable, very clinically analytical as Aditya Martin said. I wanted to raise one particular issue. Though the topic is disparities about economic and income disparity, but there is another angle to it. Disparities of opportunity.
But opportunity too many times. I don't believe that equality of resources or assets is important. That's why Thomas Piketty, notwithstanding what the Gangadhar said, is wrong. That doesn't make a difference. The quality of life is significantly across the world. Opportunity is the key. Most important elements of opportunity are quality education and skills, because God or nature endowed us with this potential. I often tell people publicly, I don't know if there's a God. My dealing with God is one of mutual non-interference. If God doesn't bother about me, I don't bother about God either. But I believe there is a sin. I believe unfulfilled potential is the greatest sin. If a child endowed by nature or God with that potential, that ability by birth, if we do not harness that potential because we were foolish enough not to give quality education to them and quality healthcare to make them productive, then it is a sin we are committing as humanity. As long as that is there, as long as they can rise, vertical mobility is possible through their hard work and ability. I am not worried about poverty. I am not worried about inequality. If I compare every day with a fellow who has 1,000 crores and want to value in self-pity, it's my problem. I am not worried about that. What I am worried about is, does everybody have decent opportunity? Are basic needs met? Is the society harmonious? Is it a fair society or might is right? If these four questions are addressed and if we are free, I am perfectly happy. That's what we can aspire for. Any other aspiration is a meaningless aspiration. They all spectacularly collapsed in human history. So opportunity is critical and some organizations do, but the issue is, unless you multiply it a million times, our scale is so humongous. Whatever we do, education, I do good. Many of the issues I talked about, I give enormous amount of time and energy to actually make something happen. I see some wonderful people doing wonderful work, but there are still only some symbols of excellence here and there. It's not become a pattern in India. It's not become part of the mainstream discourse. We need that. For instance, education, you raise it, all the so-called economists say 6% GDP must be spent. With due respect, idiots. Where are you getting 6%? This money you're spending, you're getting zero outcome, you want to spend more money of my taxes? What rubbish are you talking? So, unthinking, well-meaning, trash is going on in India. I'm being very harsh. When the time is short, you have to be harsh to penetrate the point. So, please don't worry about the words I'm using. Think about it. Evidence and logic and best practices. Measure it by that. The poverty of the mind is the greatest poverty. Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm Umakant, a member of Economic Committee. My question is that we have spoken about GDP, implementation, a lot of things. But we are nowhere in a position to decide that how much percentage of GDP we are going to spend or do anything. But with the kind of people we are sitting inside this room, I want you to give us a guidance. Like the people who are here have done great things, and they can do better things if they are guided in the right way. So let us come up with a implementation system. Top 3 or top 5 kind of things where we can set an example for the remaining towns or cities in Telangana, so that other states can take example out of us.
Great point. Take, for instance, education. You don't have to do much. We're all fond of spending more money, building more classrooms. No, there's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't really solve anything. Adopt a few schools Simply focus on educational outcomes, real outcomes, not marks, not grades, not ranks, all this stupidity. But is the kid really fulfilling her potential? And there are ways of doing it. If you want, we can discuss in private, because I'm now helping many organizations and encouraging and raising money, putting money into that and improving assessment system. I'm ready to build in Hyderabad city a first-rate science lab for all kids of government schools and low-end private schools, so that at least there's some exposure to science and technology available. Right now we've taken some elaborated, built a first-rate laboratory, a simple laboratory for all the kids of Hyderabad. So there are many things we need to do in education. You all can be partners in that. Healthcare is more advocacy than doing anything concrete, so let me leave it at that. But entrepreneurship locally, the small town development, I mentioned to you the companies that are doing it, the doctors company for instance. So expand your imagination, don't think of doing only in Hyderabad. Now, buying an acre of land in Hyderabad for a song and then appreciating 1,000-fold is not progress. I don't mind it. Many of us know, fortunate or unfortunate, we invested, we got, that's okay. But let's not delude ourselves into thinking that's progress. Progress is about wealth creation. Wealth is about creation of goods and services required for human consumption, to meet human needs. If that can be done in Husnabad as well as in Hyderabad, can you think of doing something in Husnabad, even as you do some big things in Hyderabad? This is in your hands. Can we push you all influential people politically? Can you put some sense into your political system? All these fellows spending 40, 50 crores to become MLAs. I don't know. God knows why they spend. That's an insanity of a different kind. We're not discussing politics or political reform today. But can you make them realize there are simple things you can do at very low cost to transform the lives of people? So each of these items requires our action. Some you can act as individuals, some collectively, some you have to raise voice collectively, lend voice to make it happen. So each of these is actionable point. None of these is theoretical. None of these is theoretical. They're all actionable points. But please widen your horizon, open your minds, and do whatever you can. And anytime anybody is interested in doing any one of these things anywhere, I'm always there as a resource center for that. My team, we will do it because we have dedicated our life to that. I have some very fine young people who do research, with great passion. In the market, they probably will get 10x. They work for a song or free, out of love for the country. There are people like that, young people, brilliant people are there, with intelligence, with understanding, with depth and logic, not merely with passion. The combination of passion and the mind that they are required. So please come forward. We are here to make it happen.
Hello, sir. It's not a great privilege, but the greatest privilege to have you. And good afternoon to all the
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Myself, Ramawat Anil Nayak, Sardar Patel College, Assistant Professor in Department of Social Sciences. So it will be a great disrespect if I say I have only one question throughout your seminar, because all the themes you have picked up and spoke has a lot of potential, and each word fallen from your seminar can be picked up as a research topic. So I have a couple of questions. So as I told, it will be a great disrespect, but I am moving with one important question. Now what bothers me more is wealth inequality than the income inequality. Now the people are able to manage income, but the wealth inequality is the greatest problem. The 1% of the population or the top 1% are benefiting. So that is one question, sir. And the other question is fragmented education. Now the education society or parents, teachers and every one of us running in the NEET and IIT. So we are, I think, falling in the unidirection way, disrespecting the other areas of the education. So how would we address that?
I didn't get the second question properly.
We are having the education fragmentation, sir. So
you mean the state board?
Thanks.
The first question I already addressed it. I don't believe wealth inequality is a big issue. I know there will be many people arguing, we'll discuss it later on, we'll debate it. But my concern is if everybody has an opportunity to rise, irrespective of the circumstances of birth, has the productivity, can compete with anybody's child irrespective of whether Ambani's son spends 3,000 crores for this stupid wedding and is an idiot basically. I don't care who he is, but I can compete because I got good education and God gave me brains. I'm quite happy with that. Opportunity is the key, not wealth. Because what do they do with the wealth? You have $50 billion, 60 billion, 100 billion, 200, what do you do? It's all a myth. As long as the wealth is productively deployed, in whose name the money is irrelevant. It's very easy to arouse envy. It doesn't really help. What is important is, do you have income earning capacity? Do you have the ability to fulfill your potential? Can you and your children compete with anybody irrespective of the origins? Do you have a harmonious society? Is might is right, or is there rule of law in the country? These are the practical consequences. Wealth is an illusory concept. It's a piece of paper. It means nothing. All the wealth in the world is not going to help you if you're in Sahara Desert. So it's a piece of paper. Because of our insecurity, inborn insecurity, we want more and add another zero, another zero. All of us are, me included. So, but don't worry too much about that. Thomas Piketty and others argue about that, and they make all nice song and dance. But the truth is, the world is getting better. A man called Hans Rosling, a Swedish physician who died some years ago, he made this point repeatedly. This point I've been making for 30 years. He made it more elegantly based on evidence. He pointed out that Egypt is today. In one person's lifetime, and Egypt has become a Sweden. That is the kind of world in which we live. Are we taking advantage and making our country a Sweden in 20, 30, 40 years? That is what really matters. It's not how much money you want to chop off these fellows and take away money from them. It doesn't help. It simply doesn't work. And not particularly in today's world. The moment you say, I want to take away your wealth, they will all migrate from this country. You can stop them by force. What kind of a country do you want to build? See, these are all, any policy born out of envy and anger is bound to fail. You have to look at society, see how best I can create conditions for this wealth to be deployed productively. As long as Ambanis and Adanis spend the money for India's infrastructure, India's economic growth and productivity and jobs, I'm okay. Origins are bad. If you have the rule of law framework, you make sure that the origins are good in future. But don't talk too much about it. But utilize that wealth effectively. I know it requires a lot of mental discipline because it's very easy. That fellow has 1,000 crores. The other fellow has 10,000 crores. No, zero added. After some time, we don't even understand what is 1 lakh crores and 2 lakh crores. So don't worry too much about it. It's incomes, earning opportunities, and skills, ability to fulfill potential, and the social conditions for us to have an equitable society where might is not right. That is what matters. I know there will be many people who love to hold communists will fight me and chop off my head, but we'll debate that. I think it's already answered by history, but I'm prepared to debate that, not today. Okay? All right. The second question, education. The problem is insecurity of parents, but I think things are improving. Things are improving because parents increasingly realize there are many opportunities for success. I played a significant role in the creation of the educational policy, national education policy. Just 2-3 weeks ago, I had spent an hour and a half with Dr. Kasturi Rangan, who was the architect of that. We had a luncheon meeting together. So we discussed offline. But I think things are getting better. One of the problems with education is, irrespective of whether IIT or something else, an education devoid of skills, just as school education has failed, in higher education also is largely failing. Let me make a very controversial and very sharp statement. If 80% of universities of India are shut down, the country will not notice. Except giving the certificates and pieces of paper, it's not having a tangible impact on the country. So we require a significant educational reform. Next.
Sir, before Manjeet from back, sir. Please give the microphone here.
Fast.
Can I have one question?
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Monica from Kasturba Gandhi College. Sir, my question is, as of now, many merit students are not getting chance to work in government sectors because of reservation. Sir, don't you think it is also affecting economic and income in India? Can you please comment on it?
Your name?
Monica.
Monica. First, let me take this in two parts. Employment and government. One of the tragedies of India is the notion that government is for employment. It's an unmitigated disaster. Let us assume there are 100 positions. Let us assume there are no reservations, because we think reservations are a problem. I'll come to that later. 1 lakh employed, they're unemployable after spending 3-4 years for these stupid examinations. We are thinking that government is not the answer at all. Look around you, Monica. This room, your body, or your home, or your college. Is there one thing here produced by the government? The microphone that I'm using, the pen I have in my pocket, or the glasses, or my clothes, or my shoes, or the sofas here, or anything else. Is there one thing here produced by the government that you need? Zero. Employment comes from where? From production of goods and services necessary for human consumption to meet human needs. Say that in your memory. Think of every word. Employment comes from production of goods and services necessary for the society to fulfill their needs. And we are pretending, because of colonial background and socialist baggage, that government is the employer and it's a good employment. It's a dangerous employment. Disgusting employment.
The feeling is government job मिल गया सुकून से बैठ सकता है.
Exactly. At the cost of society. Making them parasites. Some are working remarkably well. There are many people in government, in politics and administration who are doing an exceptional job. I'm proud of them. I celebrate them. Whenever I hear of them, I telephone and especially pat them on the back, because now they require encouragement. But they are a hopeless minority. So government is not the answer. Out of 100 people employed, only 3 can be employed in government. Shameless parties and governments advertise this now. Andhra Pradesh, mega DS recruited. If 11,600 students actually benefit, I'll be delighted. The second part, yes, still some people require to be in government with intelligence, with passion, with ability to make a difference, to transform the country. But go with that intention, but not as a source of employment. And reservations is one of the great myths of our society, that they are affecting it. The problem of reservations is not because, it's not true to say because of reservations the government efficiency is coming down. Some of the finest officials I worked with, some of the finest officials who taught me all the issues of governance at the practical level were from Dalit background. I would not like to mention names now specifically. One of them in particular, he taught me almost everything in executive capacity, what and how I should do it. Your background makes no difference. You don't require 150 IQ for government employment. You require moderate intelligence, good heart, common sense, and application of your tools to benefit humanity around you. It doesn't require geniuses. It's one of the great myths. Now, reservations, it's not that it's not problem, it's problematic, the way it's implemented. When Baba Sahib Ambedkar introduced reservations, the idea is that because there's no opportunity, we'll give it time. Meanwhile, we'll create opportunity without having to go for reservations. That's why 10 years they said. Our idiots made that permanent and guaranteed that the beneficiaries of reservation are unhappy. Those who don't get are unhappy. It requires genius to make everybody unhappy. Because what's happened is, in the name of reservations, the collector's son, and give you an economic opportunity. If I give you an educational opportunity, you can overcome the discrimination or disadvantage by birth. That's the logic. Otherwise, reservation is irrelevant. Now, if I already am a collector, obviously I overcome the disadvantage. If I want now reservation for my child at the cost of the laborer's child or the truly poor person's child, what am I seeking? It is a reservation for the community or personal gain at the cost of the rest of the community. That ought to be done. We have to have the courage to do that as a country. The second is, the real challenge is not that. The real challenge is school education. Reservation applies in higher education and then employment. If school education is a disaster, if you're producing morons who don't know how to read time, who don't know nothing, and then you say, I give you reservation, whom are you benefiting? Supposing you create a condition like in China, I guarantee you, in China, everybody gets up to 8th class free, world's best quality education. Rural, urban, rich, poor, doesn't matter. Everybody is guaranteed a decent education. I have seen it. Any country I go to, normally I ask people about a lot of things. You can judge the level of education, the level of clarity and precision. China is the only country where I found people give accurate answers, very clear answers. You can see the quality of school education. Ordinary Chinese, when they speak with tremendous clarity. If you do that, that means you can then compete irrespective of circumstances of birth with anybody. Then reservation becomes irrelevant over a period of time. We created a monster system where the human potential is not fulfilled, capacity is not harnessed. We pretend reservation is an answer, and those who get reservation are dissatisfied because it's not making much difference to their lives. Those who don't get reservation, remember, there are lots of people who, for no fault of theirs, are born in a certain community, in a certain family. They are suffering great disadvantage. If the reservation of the current mode is not working, it's our duty to figure out what is the best way to make it happen, not make it a zero-sum game. Those who don't get reservation benefit, they're opposed to it. Those who get benefit, they're in favor of it. That's a very sad way of looking at society. Be much more deep-rooted, thoughtful. Okay?
Sir, please. My name is Srinivasa, state professor. So I am a great fan of you. So would you like to share your personal life, sir? You are looking so dynamic, and you are sharing, you are speaking effectively, communicating. Can you share about your personal life? Who is your inspiration? Yes. Because the youth want to share your inspirational. And next one, how to develop your effective communication skills.
To know more about sir, watch the YouTube videos. You will know everything.
You know, the most important thing is not how well you speak, it's how well you think.
Or what you talk.
If you have clarity of thought, doesn't matter what language you use, how flowery or not, it's not very relevant. We have muddled thinking in our country. People speak beautiful language, but their thoughts are completely muddled. So focus on harnessing your mind, clarity of thought, logical, consistent, systematic, evidence-based, and understanding the best practices in the world around you, adapting your knowledge and understanding to the conditions around you. The rest of it, I guarantee it comes from the heart automatically. Some people may speak brilliantly, some people may speak not so brilliantly, but the ideas will have value if the thought is clear-headed. All of us are mentors in life. My teachers and others, they inspired us. But there are three people who I regard as my mentors. Each of them became a great personal friend later on. In each of those areas, I had the privilege of making a significant contribution to this country because of the inspiration I derived from them. One of them was a man called Rajinikanth Taroli. Almost nobody would have heard the name. He was a great physician. He and his wife graduated from CMC Vellore, went to Johns Hopkins, and then did their post-graduation in surgery and obstetrics and gynecology respectively. Came back to India, went to Jamkhed in Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra, and established a very viable primary healthcare system for that whole taluk. I was deeply influenced by them. And because of the influence, a lot of my time I devoted, and I continue to devote for the cause of healthcare in the country. And I'm privileged to be the architect of the National Health Mission. I wanted to be much bigger, but the Prime Minister and the Planning Commission Deputy Chairman, they said, Jayaprakash, you are too radical. Let's think of something more modest. I said, beggars can't be choosers. Whatever is possible, let's do it. So that's how we came up with the National Health Mission. But a lot more remains to be done. Another man who influenced me in my life is Dr. Varghese Kurian, whose name is very familiar to many people. Now, it's because of Kurian's influence, I developed deep understanding of cooperatives and the need for autonomy and the liberty. And I am the architect of the 97th Amendment to the Constitution of India, liberating cooperatives from the clutches of government. So during Kurian's lifetime, I had the privilege of giving this constitutional amendment saying, look, now, thanks to your inspiration, this is a constitutional reality. And much more happened in between, but I'm talking about the big things. Agriculture, the man who inspired me most was a man called Sharad Joshi, Shetkari Sanghathan. He really understood agriculture better than all the emotional farmers. Now, many people are well-meaning, but they have no understanding of what agriculture is and what to do. Sharad Joshi understood. And I was inspired and influenced by him. And I was the person who eliminated the trading restrictions within the country. In 2011, I conducted a Padayatra fighting against Israel. I said, you arrest me if you can. And eventually all restrictions within the country were removed. I was the one who got imposition of tariffs for the cooking oil imports because I don't want Indian farmers to be hurt. Have a reasonable thing. It took me several years, but ultimately I succeeded. And several other things related to agriculture. I have been privileged to be part of that. So these three are perhaps some of the most important influences. They also taught me how to think, how to translate your idealism into practical reality in Indian conditions. I'm sure each of us has people. Don't admire people in a very sterile way, like a film fan or something else. No. Tap their ideas and get all the knowledge they acquired in a lifetime. And be respectful to those ideas and develop them further and make those things happen. All these three became my great personal friends. In fact, I invited Rajnikant Taroli to the National Task Force headed by the Prime Minister because I was the architect of the National Health Mission. I decided who should be members. So Rajnikant Taroli was my colleague member in the task force. Sharad Joshi, very dear friend, but I also used to disagree with him on occasion. There were issues where he used to take a pedantic view. I used to laugh and tell him you are being silly. So that I respect and admire doesn't mean that you are obsequious. You must become their equal. You must earn their respect. And you must develop the ideas further for the country's sake. And there must be tangible outcomes. So I have plenty of people. And every day when I see wonderful people doing wonderful work, my admiration knows no bounds. I have great ability to admire and adore people who achieve genuine success for the country. Small, big, at any level. And luckily for me, the word envy does not enter my lexicon. I am never envious of a human being. I admire people remarkably. They do great things I admire, I adore them. But why didn't I do it? Nothing never occurs to me. Whoever does anything good for this country, I treat them as our friend and our benefactor. We all have a duty to support them and strengthen them, not be envious and to cut them to size.
Majid.
Good afternoon, everyone. And the state government keep on giving some freebies. One country went on giving freebies, now it is begging, I believe.
Venezuela.
Right. Please give it.
No, but broader point is, let's be practical. Don't ask for the moon. You cannot run our democracy without welfare. I don't even want to use the word freebies. It's individual, short-term welfare. There are two broad approaches. One is individual, short-term welfare. Doesn't really transform my life, but gives temporary satisfaction, gives the votes. The other is long-term, collective good. It's not individual, it's collective, long-term. The governments are chosen primarily to meet the collective needs, which we need them to be fulfilled, but we cannot individually fulfill. We are forgetting the role of the government. Government, primarily, human society created this institution called government to do things which we cannot do individually, without doing which our lives are miserable. Now what happened is, ignoring the government's primary role of collective goods, they are now making it a transaction. I give the money, you give me the vote. It is disgraceful. Having said that, no democracy can survive without some element of welfare. Because if people are really in distress, we have to take care of them. Our conscience doesn't allow it, and society will not have peace. What is required is not eliminating welfare, having a balanced approach between welfare and growth-oriented, long-term collective good. And therefore, the practical formula is what I have enunciated today. Under Article 293 of the Constitution, Government of India has the power to decide how much you can borrow. And they have the right and the duty to impose conditions for borrowing. Therefore, the one simple thing that you can borrow, but borrowed money cannot be used for current expenditure. That includes your day-to-day expenditure, that includes short-term individual welfare, that includes interest payments, etc. As long as you are within that, I think the country is safe. And in a federal country, they tell you what to do, what not to do. Modi says, Revanth Reddy, you spend this money on this and not on this. Will we agree? Who is he? We elected our government. So you have to give the freedom to the states, but the boundaries must be rationally and firmly fixed and uniformly fixed. That is the right approach. If you say, no, even the word freebies is pejorative. Somebody born in poverty, in dire need, they are not sinners. We don't need to humiliate them. It's wrong. But all we are saying is their long-term good is important. Therefore, their earning capacity, their ability to be partners in economic activity is what matters. In the name of welfare, you are actually destroying their future. That is the point we have to make. And the practical formula is no borrowed money for current expenditure, including short-term welfare. I think that's something viable. Okay, Majid.
So thank you very much, sir. Already we exceeded the time. And before we conclude, many of the people may not be knowing that he is one of the important persons, the architect of the RTI, the Right to Information Act, which is such a beautiful thing in the democratic setup. So that's a very, very important thing. I didn't know this. Before I came, I didn't know this. Sir, one more important thing you said, you said you are setting up a science lab which will be used for everybody. Sir, I am interested in that. We have the Exhibition Society office bearers and also OG office bearers are there. I mean, I would like to put across to those people, the OG and Exhibition Society people, could we be a part of that science?
Very much so. Not only one, in fact, once we do it in Hyderabad, I want every district to have. I want everybody, as many as possible, to do basic science and technology in an interesting manner, not mugging up and formulas. Unless we prepare the kids, it's a shame.
As a scientist, I'm really impressed, sir, with this kind of beautiful ideas come up.